How was your weekend?
It's all right, you know. It's nothing earth-shattering.
He was an ordinary guy.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Looking for an extraordinary love.
I'm Peter Love.
Rachel.
I brought this girl up to my place the other night.
It started with a kiss.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Nicolas Cage.
The tortures of the damned!
Hi, I'm Francisco.
I'm Devin.
And welcome to the first installment of You Should Probably Watch. Tonight, Vampire's Kiss. So...
Okay, I'll start. I have seen this movie before. It is a cult classic with dubious standing, though.
What are you saying? It has all the standing.
No, I mean in terms of like what people think about it.
Oh.
It is a cult classic. You know, people do seek this movie out, but it's not on the top of, you know,
anyone's list.
Yeah, no. But maybe it should be. Maybe it should be.
So I think we didn't think before we did this, but I think we don't want to give a lot of spoilers this time. I don't want to go into a lot of detail. I want to set the seeds for curiosity and confusion. Vampire's Kiss is the Oscar-winning performance of traditionally trained actor Nicolas Cage.
That's not true at all. Nicolas Cage did not win an Oscar for this movie.
He didn't win an Oscar, it's true, but it was all very political. He should have won one Oscar.
Just talk about the movie.
I think this is the way you explain this movie, is by pointing out how freaking amazing it is, and the only real reason why it is amazing is because of Nicolas Cage.
Well, okay, let's talk about you'd never seen this movie.
No,
but I've told you some things about it, and there are some things out there about
everyone
it.
has seen the meme surrounding this.
Yes, everybody has seen the meme that came from this movie.
The several memes.
Yes. But, you know, so that's all you really knew. So having actually watched the movie now, what was your opinion going into it? What did you sort of expect?
I didn't know what to expect. Like, I mean, it was Nicolas Cage going crazy, but that's not a very specific area.
No, I think Nicolas Cage going crazy is very specific.
No, yes, but the ways it can go there's a lot of possible end scenarios.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Needless to say that it surpassed expectations. It was amazing to watch.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh? That's all you have to do.
Very good. You know your alphabet.
I don't even know what to think of the plot. There are so many things about the plot that I'm not entirely sure about, but it doesn't matter because it's like Magnolia, you know? It's a movie for the actors.
Yes, it's exactly like Magnolia.
The correct answer is Ravel. Ravel. And now I'm going to have our three whistlers pleased to present the next musical. There were three musical sections here, and this will be the third section at the Whistlers, and they'll play a piece that's.
I'm a vampire.
Would you like to ask more questions?
Okay. I would like to ask the filmmakers a question, because this is listed as a dark comedy.
Yes, in fact they say a sleek, outrageous dark comedy by the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah. But I want to know if it started out that way. Now, the end chunk of this movie is very clearly supposed to be a comedy.
Yes.
But the front of it, I'm not so sure.
The movie begins as a more or less normal drama.
Well, thriller.
Drama thriller where Nicolas Cage is not even trying. And by the end of it, the movie's with him. So it is actually up to debate if you're watching it and don't know anything about it like we don't. Did it really start as a dark comedy or the filmmakers just give up?
Yeah, because that was sort of my thought, is that it really feels like it was written with the intention to be a thriller, and then Nicolas Cage came in and played it with so much sarcasm that the filmmakers just decided to turn it into a dark comedy at the end. Because the front of it isn't a comedy at all. If you replaced Nicolas Cage with another actor,
You would just have a straight movie.
You would have a really boring thriller is what you would have. But you put Nicolas Cage in there, and it's suddenly amazing and hilarious.
I'm not a big Nicolas Cage fan. Maybe I should be. I mean...
Oh, come on. Raising Arizona.
I don't
This
know.
was after Raising Arizona, by the way.
Fine, but I watched Raising Arizona, and even I don't think Raising Arizona is that funny compared to this. It's not nearly as entertaining.
Well, to be fair, what made Raising Arizona funny was the weird restraint of the actors with all this crazy shit going on.
Sure.
In this, it's just Nicolas Cage completely let off the chain and doing whatever he feels like.
There you are!
Okay, I guess if I were to say anything about this movie, I would start with, if you have seen all the memes, if you have seen all the little riff-raffs, don't think that's it. Don't think, oh, I've already seen everything there is to see.
There's so much more.
There's so much more.
Jeez.
Go watch the movie, because it's entirely worth it.
Yeah, if you can find it, because it is a little bit tricky to find. It's on Blu-ray at like Target and I think Walmart and a few other places, but it's in a dual pack, and as far as I know, they don't carry it in stores. So if you can find that Blu-ray release, go for it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to track down a DVD. But it's definitely worth it.
Yes.
It's definitely a movie worth having on your shelf to pull out at parties. Like, it would be an amazing Halloween movie.
Definitely. The cool part about it too is that you don't have to have movie-oriented friends either.
No.
Everyone can appreciate the ham in this movie.
Yeah, definitely. If what we've said so far interests you, then I suggest stopping this video now and just going and watching this movie. I'm not usually concerned with spoilers whatsoever, but in this case, it's better to see Nicolas Cage's batshit crazy performance fresh. Cause
Absolutely, yes.
yeah.
So, how does the movie start? Oh, I remember. The movie starts with Nicolas Cage at a therapist.
Yeah.
In this they established that he was with a woman at one point or another, and things kind of broke off. And then that scene ends very quickly to him with maybe the same woman, maybe another one. It's hard
It's
to
a
tell.
different woman.
I will assume it's a different woman. And they're getting it off and going to his apartment.
They're getting it off?
Getting it on, and while they're on his bed, from the window, disaster happens.
A toy rubber bat flies in.
An entirely too stubby bat starts flying around the apartment.
Very slowly.
Very slowly. And the woman scatters off.
No, she leaves and goes and sits in the hallway, laughing her ass off while a child looks at her tits. Oh, God.
And Nicolas Cage fails to put the bat out.
Well, the bat just kind of flies out on its own.
Either that or stays in the curtains. You can't tell.
Yeah, whatever.
And later on, he goes back to the therapist and tells her that seeing the bat and fighting the bat made him sexually aroused.
Well, but he implies it's something more than sex.
Yes, but it also says he was sexually attracted to the bat.
Yeah.
And then he goes away.
Yeah, and, okay, so while that's going on, we also have a secondary plot about him and his secretary.
Yes.
Which steals the movie for the first half.
Definitely.
For the first half of the movie, him abusing his secretary steals the show. In the second half, it gets changed up a little bit, and him running around being batshit crazy sort of takes over. But for the first half, it's him and the secretary. Like, if this was a sitcom, I would watch it every week.
The way he treats his secretary puts Madman to shame. Really?
And is a lot funnier.
It's a lot funnier, yes. It is so unbelievably over the top.
Am I getting through to you? Over!
She is supposed to be looking for some account in the office, and she can't find it, and he's always on top of her.
Do it or I'll fire you, do you understand?
Except it looks like a cartoon.
It's straight up a cartoon, and that's why it's hilarious.
Not the floor, Alva.
And there are so many memes from these scenes alone. I mean, it's funny when you say, like, this is a movie about Nicolas Cage going insane and thinking he's turning into a vampire, but most of the memes actually have nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
They're mostly about
him just being crazy.
Him just being a crazy person to his secretary.
Yeah, so he has assigned her the task to find some contract or, something to do with an old book.
Yeah.
And she's having trouble finding it, and that's your conflict right there. That's all you need, really. Yeah. And it's basically every day he comes in, he asks her if she's found it, she says no, and he snaps. And hilarious
in ways that really only Nicolas Cage could perform.
Yes, exactly. Like, just jumping up on the furniture and dramatically pointing and then chasing her down a hallway into the ladies' room. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yes. Between the nights, he starts being visited by a mystery woman.
Yeah. Well, it was a woman that he picked up one night. And then she keeps coming back.
Yes. And this woman bites him on the neck. And this starts the slow progression of him believing he's a vampire. No, I'm trying to go beat by beat, but it's really hard.
No, you can't really, because what holds this, like, this is another movie that doesn't have a whole lot of plot.
No.
And it's the scenes of Nicolas Cage losing his shit that hold this movie together.
The movie is repetition. You have the day and you have the night, and usually the way to go is during the day you have him losing his shit with his secretary, and during the night you have him losing his shit with the vampire stuff.
I'm a vampire!
But every single time it happens, it gets progressively worse, and they start merging together.
Yeah, he starts showing up to the office wearing sunglasses because the sun's too bright. He goes into the bathroom in his office at one point and starts freaking out because he doesn't have a reflection, even though he fucking clearly has a reflection.
He's just looking at mirrors going, where am I?
And that's what when we were asking, was this supposed to be more psychological? Because was this scene supposed to actually be that he doesn't have a reflection and they just shot it poorly? Or
that he did have a reflection and he couldn't see it because he was about a person going insane.
yeah, it was this scene that really made us not understand which direction the filmmakers were trying to go, because it was just hilarious. Like, Nicolas Cage standing in front of a mirror, looking at himself, screaming about how he doesn't have a reflection. It's fantastic. Everything about this movie is great.
Then, things progress. I guess he rapes his secretary by falling on top of her and nibbling on her.
Nicolas Cage.
He destroys his apartment.
Well, he crows.
He crows.
After a failed attempt to kill himself, he makes one of the funniest noises I've ever heard.
There is no explaining it. There's no explaining this movie.
I'm a vampire!
Basically, the vampire stuff progresses. He, like, sees Nosferatu and
Starts mimicking him.
he starts, like, holding the posture of Nosferatu and walking around with that sort of, you know, and yeah, it's just progressively gets fucking batshit crazier and batshit crazier. So the secretary has basically lost it. She's been really rocky with him the whole movie, and now after he essentially raped her, even though not really, but whatever, she tells her brother, and now, you know, that whole thing is coming to a head at the same time the vampire stuff is coming to a head. He's murdered somebody because he bought, like, shitty plastic Halloween vampire teeth and killed somebody with them. in the middle of, like, a part, like a rave kind of thing. And he basically just lost his shit there, screaming about how he's a vampire. And then somebody, like, does this to him. And he runs away. He starts losing it about how he's a vampire and believes that he needs to be killed. So he, like, rips a piece of wood off of a plank on the side of the road and starts screaming at random people passing by to kill him.
We're not entirely sure if these people are actors.
Yeah,
I really hope they're just pedestrians.
I'm almost convinced the director set up a camera and told Nicolas Cage to freak out on the next people who walk by, because that's really how it comes off.
I want the story of the people who got home one night.
Yeah.
Mom, Nicolas Cage wanted me to kill him.
Oh, right. Nicolas Cage has had a conversation with a wall who he believes is his therapist.
For like 10 minutes.
It goes on for so long and it never gets old. He believes his imaginary therapist. And by the way, we're not sure if the therapist was imaginary the whole movie. Who the fuck knows? It could have just been imaginary for this one scene, or it could have been in his head the entire time. You have no way of knowing.
That's how you know that this movie is really pushing it. And
Yes.
It's really challenging you.
It's really avant-garde.
Yeah.
So anyway, he believes that his therapist has introduced him to the love of his life. Love. And he's going home with her, except on the way home they have the arc of an entire relationship.
And they hate each other now.
They hate each other by the time he gets home. And he's just wandering around his apartment screaming at nobody. in one of the best scenes ever, because it's like, you ever get into an argument with somebody or you get really mad at them and you each go your separate ways and you just like storm around your house like, well, if you said this, then I would say this, right? That's what he was doing. It almost felt like Nicolas Cage just had a fight with his girlfriend and they just decided to film it. So he gets into his makeshift coffin, which is his couch turned upside down. The brother comes in to confront him, right? And he's just laying under the couch, and the brother flips up the couch and starts yelling at him. And Nicolas Cage just picks up his makeshift wooden stake and holds it to his chest. And the guy's just like, okay, I guess, and just pushes.
Just goes like, and he dies. And that's the end.
That's the movie. It's really hard to talk about because pretty much everything that happens in this movie is genius and hilarious. There's a bit of a stretch where it starts getting a little bit boring, I think.
There is a bit at the middle where it's...
But it's not too bad,
It's not too bad. It's entirely reasonable.
Yeah, like every time you start getting a little bit bored, Nicolas Cage makes some crazy face or starts yelling, and it's more than enough to pull you through it. Yeah. So, I don't know that we're going to talk about very many so bad it's good movies on this channel, but this one...
We'll talk about movies that we think should be watched, really. I think that's...
Yeah, all I mean is we're not going to go out of our way.
No, there are plenty of channels for that.
Yeah, but when we happen across one, we will definitely talk about it, and this was definitely worth talking about.
Yes, and it is a classic. It is a cult classic.
Yeah, an underrated cult classic, I think, because the movie is hilarious, and part of that hilarity comes from not knowing what the real intentions for the movie were.
Yes, definitely.
Because if it was supposed to be a thriller, then it's so bad it's good. If it was supposed to be a comedy, it is very funny, but it's not funny in a way that a comedy should be funny.
Nobody would write the script and say, I've made a comedy.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, dark comedies do tend to feel more like thrillers or dramas. They're not funny in the same way that a straight-up comedy is. But this doesn't even feel like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
It's really, like you said, nobody would write this script, give it to somebody, and say, this is supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah.
Like, what makes it a comedy is Nicolas Cage just losing his mind.
And props to the actors around him, not to... Because, oh my god, the amount of outtakes.
Yeah.
The amount of outtakes this poor thing must have.
Yeah.
Well, you should probably watch Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah, so this was a shorter episode, but there's really not a whole lot more that we can say about it other than it needs to be experienced.
Yes.
So go find it and watch it. Watch it with friends.
Yes.
I think this is a friends movie. If you watch it alone, it still is funny, but it's definitely worth sharing the experience.
Night, guys.
You are so pathetic.
Vampire's Kiss.
Strange stuff. I'll never do that again. Jeez.